A lot of different ways people can respond to the migrant refugee crisis. Some people do through direct service, people especially who are encountering them directly each and every day. Some can respond through political advocacy and trying to change the policies that affect the outcome of migrants and refugees in a particular country. Others can respond through education. So I think there's a lot of different ways that people can look at this issue and respond to it. But one of the most important issues is really to look around us and to recognize that often these are the people who society regards as the nobodies. And so I think part of the mission of the church is to recognize not only that they are somebody, but they are actually connected to everybody. And so even at a place like where I work on a university campus, there are migrants everywhere. People cutting lawns, people kind of working in kitchens, people doing a lot of the service work and often doing the work that nobody else wants to do. So part of it is to just listen to them, understand their stories, to respect their dignity, to treat them as human beings. I remember in a lot of my research, I'd sometimes ask migrants, what's the hardest part about being a migrant or a refugee? And one migrant said, I've stood away in baggage compartments of buses. And he says, I've actually crossed deserts and almost baked to death. He says, I've traversed mountains and almost frozen to death. He says, I've gone days at a time without water and even food. He said, all that stuff is really hard. He says, but that's not the hardest part. He says, the hardest part is when people treat you like you're a dog and like you're no one to anyone. And so I think part of the thing that we can do is even just recognizing people who are in this situation, is trying to understand where they come from and what their stories are. We had another one where I was giving a talk in New Hampshire, and I was just briefly mentioned something about Rwanda in the talk. And afterwards, this woman came to me, and so she said that she's actually from Rwanda, and she was grateful that I mentioned something about it. And I didn't know much of her story at the time, but I said, look, if I can ever do anything for you, I said, don't hesitate to contact me. So 2 weeks later, she contacted me, and she says, you can do something. She says, my husband and I actually lived in the hotel, better known as Hotel Rwanda, and we were there during the genocide. And she said, would you walk with us in writing a book in the search for God from the context of genocide? And I think for me, it was a powerful experience to journey with them and to even go back to Rwanda with them, to walk in the places where a lot of their relatives were killed, but then to listen to their own experience of faith and to also see how they were able to believe amidst what is really unbelievable, and how they're able to trust in God amidst even some of the most godless of situations.